Hello viewers, welcome to our channel. Stay updated with the latest news, spoilers and behind-the-scenes action from the Duggar family. If you're a fan of the iconic reality drama, this is your go-to channel for all the must-know updates and exclusive content. Subscribe and never miss a moment of the drama. And now, let's dive into today's explosive headline. Walking in line like ducks, Jinger Duggar finally exposes the crazy routines that governed her childhood during reality show fame. The reality star opened up about feeling nervous to film the Duggars' first TV show in 2004 as she recalled the unique methods they used to keep order while traveling with 19 kids. In a recent episode of the Jinger and Jeremy podcast, Jinger Duggar Vuolo and her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, re-watched the 2004 premiere of her family's first reality show, 14 Children and Pregnant Again. Jinger opened up about feeling nervous when her family welcomed cameras into their lives for the show that ultimately launched her family into fame. Jinger revealed that her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, had the kids clean the house like crazy before the crew arrived and created some unique games to keep family order. Jinger Duggar Vuolo is detailing what went on behind the scenes of her family's many reality shows. On a recent episode of the Jinger and Jeremy podcast, which she hosts with her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, the pair re-watched the 2004 premiere of 14 Children and Pregnant Again. Marking the beginning of the Duggars' 17 years on TV, Jinger recalled how they prepared to bring cameras into their lives. "We cleaned like crazy," she revealed. "Because like my mom always kept our house pretty clean, we had our chores. Our house was not terribly messy all the time. I mean, it would get messy, but then would always clean it up." The attention to detail is something Jinger said she will never forget. "I just remember we cleaned the baseboards because we had white baseboards at our house. And I remember we had to scrub them very well and our white walls because they would get dirty. We would do that, but before cameras came. When it came to incentives," she said her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle, would make up games to get her and her siblings to follow their rules of appearing on TV. "My dad realized some of the kids were not wanting to buckle," she noted of when they would all gather in the family's 15-passenger van. "Whoever the first person was to say click or something like that, I think that is how it goes, you would get a penny. And then that would add up over time because every time you hopped in the van it was like a game. It was really a game. They had a little running tally of that too for little chores that we would do like cleaning out the van," she added. "We would get however much money they wanted to pay us for cleaning all the junk out of the van." Just 10 years old when the Duggars started filming, Jinger admitted she was nervous to introduce herself to the world and suddenly have strangers fill her home. "In that time, having the camera in your face was one thing," she began. "But then they would say after that was done, then they were like, yeah, try not to look at the camera. Just do your thing. It just would happen," she continued. "We weren't used to that concept." Over the years, the Duggar family continued to grow, ultimately consisting of 19 children. When it came to assembling in a line for the opening credits in 14 Children and Pregnant Again, Jinger said that was one thing they all knew exactly how to do. "We would line up all the time. If we went out, we would get in code O," she explained. "So that means birth order. It's code order, I guess. I never actually understood what that meant. But they would say code O. And then would hop in line, birth order, youngest in the front, oldest in the back, and we would walk around like that, like a pack of ducks." When Jeremy asked what would happen if they weren't in the correct order, Jinger quickly responded, "We'd be like, hop in line. What are you doing?" Jinger Duggar Vuolo is done keeping secrets. The once quiet daughter of the ever-growing Duggar brood is opening the doors to a past that was built on silence, obedience, and routine, a world that captivated millions of viewers on reality television but harbored complexities far deeper than what the cameras captured. In her newly released, deeply personal book, Jinger tears down the glossy illusion of a perfectly functioning large family and instead exposes the rigid, even crazy routines that governed her life as one of 19 siblings. Her childhood was anything but typical. Imagine a home where each moment was choreographed, each child playing a part in an elaborate performance that both mirrored and masked their true emotions. Jinger's revelations have shaken fans of the Duggar family to the core, not because of some grand scandal, but because of the deep emotional and psychological impact of the highly disciplined and isolating lifestyle she describes. One detail in particular has grabbed headlines across the internet and beyond. The kids were trained to walk in a single-file line like ducks when they were out in public. It may sound harmless or even humorous at first, but Jinger paints a picture that is far from whimsical. For the Duggar children, walking in line was not a game. It was a necessity born from a system that prized control and uniformity over individuality. Each child had a designated number and they were expected to stay in birth order at all times, whether at a grocery store, church, or family outing. Stepping out of line, both literally and metaphorically, was not tolerated. This practice, which she refers to as Code O, is just one of many routines that govern their existence. The Duggar household functioned like a well-oiled machine. Every morning, the children would rise early and rotate through a list of chores more complex than those found in most large-scale institutions. Jinger remembers scrubbing toilets, changing diapers, and completing schoolwork all before lunch. With 19 children and a highly conservative value system rooted in the teachings of Bill Gothard and the Institute in Basic Life Principles, the household operated under a military-like sense of order. The kids weren't just expected to comply, they were expected to do so cheerfully. Expressions of dissatisfaction were discouraged, and questioning authority, even subtly, could bring consequences ranging from stern lectures to prolonged periods of prayer and reflection. Jinger recalls how these routines made her feel secure as a child but later began to suffocate her as she grew older and developed her own perspective on life, faith, and freedom. In the book, she doesn't just describe what they did, she explains how it made her feel. And those feelings have stirred an intense wave of empathy from fans who once saw the Duggars as a model of wholesome Christian living. One of the most surprising parts of her story is how much of their day-to-day lives were scripted for the sake of the television audience. While the children were always dressed modestly and spoke politely, there was an undercurrent of anxiety that Jinger couldn't shake. The pressure to perform, to never complain, to always obey, it left a lasting mark. She writes with honesty about her internal struggles. While outwardly she was the good daughter, the obedient one, the smiling face on screen, inside, she was battling fear, confusion, and doubt. The routines that were meant to provide order also erased her sense of self. Over time, Jinger says, she began to realize that blind obedience and unwavering submission were not the hallmarks of true faith. They were tools of control. Leaving that world behind wasn't easy. When she married Jeremy Vuolo, she took a major step toward independence, but even then, the emotional chains of her upbringing lingered. She felt guilt about wearing pants for the first time. She questioned whether her desire for autonomy was sinful. Her husband helped her unravel the layers of indoctrination she had grown up with, encouraging her to explore her beliefs beyond the rigid structures of the IBLP. Slowly, she began to redefine her relationship with God, not as a wrathful overseer waiting to punish her every mistake, but as a source of unconditional love and grace. Jinger's decision to share these memories with the public was not made lightly. She knew it would draw criticism from some family members, and she was right. Not everyone in the Duggar circle has embraced her new voice. Some have accused her of betraying her roots. Others have gone silent. But Jinger is undeterred. She says she's not trying to tear her family down, she's trying to tell the truth. And that truth is complicated. While there were moments of joy and connection in the Duggar household, they were often overshadowed by a suffocating culture of control. Her book describes in detail how even seemingly innocent behaviors, like reading a secular novel or watching a popular movie, could be met with alarm and rebuke. The world outside the Duggar compound was seen as dangerous and corrupt. Isolation was a form of protection. Jinger now realizes that this isolation also limited her emotional development. It made it harder for her to trust her own instincts, to develop healthy relationships, and to recognize manipulation when it happened. She recalls how her father Jim Bob Duggar wielded enormous influence over the household, and how the family's public image was meticulously curated to reflect his beliefs. Even as scandals began to rock the family, the pressure to present a united front remained intense. What makes Jinger's story so compelling is that it's not a story of rebellion, it's a story of awakening. She isn't lashing out. She's reflecting. She's learning. And she's inviting others to learn with her. Her voice is calm, steady, and sincere. She's not trying to convert anyone to her way of thinking. She's simply saying, "This was my experience and I'm finally ready to talk about it." Fans of the Duggar family have responded with a mix of shock, admiration, and sadness. Many had long suspected that the show glossed over the more difficult aspects of Duggar life, but Jinger's account confirms just how deeply the pressure to conform went. In walking in line like ducks, the children learned not just physical discipline but emotional suppression. It became a metaphor for how they were expected to live, following the path laid out for them without questioning where it led. Today, Jinger is determined to raise her own children differently. She wants them to ask questions, to make mistakes, to know that love doesn't depend on perfect behavior. Her story is not just a memoir, it's a manifesto. A call to break free from fear-based religion and embrace a faith rooted in compassion, grace, and truth. As more readers pick up her book, the conversation around the Duggars and similar fundamentalist families continues to evolve. Jinger's courage in speaking out has opened a door for others who've experienced similar upbringings to share their stories. The routine of walking in line like ducks may seem like a small thing, but in Jinger's telling, it becomes a symbol of a childhood spent in submission and a life reclaimed through honesty and healing.